know what to say.
Well, we caught something.
Gonna love every breath that I take. Down to my soul and my heartbeat beat. Break the chain. Break the chain. Walking straight as my eyes can see. Break the chain. I'm gonna stay home in eternity. Break the chain. Break the chain. When I'm outside and I take a deep breath, break the chain. It's like I'm dancing, am I dancing with them? Break the chain. Break the chain. Let's break the chain, let it die on the vine. Break the chain. No human hope, scarcely no time. Break the chain. 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 Break the chain.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Teresa Poole. I'm the worship associate today, and I can honestly promise you this will be a different kind of service. It has been most interesting working with Rev Kirk. So this is going to be fun today, I think. As you notice, in the theme of chaos, when you came in, our chairs were not in their usual order. So we're going to start out with straightening the chairs and putting them any way you want them to be. You can stay where you are, or if you want to turn around and face the front as usual, that's your choice. People like it, okay? Sounds good.
look and see where we are.
Okay, no, that's mine. First of all, as usual, we want to welcome you here with us in person at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke. And we extend a special welcome if you're joining us for the first time. And for those of you who are on YouTube, we're glad that you are with us. Just a reminder to you, if you have something that you would like to have shared during Lifelines, please use the chat feature to enter that in the next few moments. Our minister is the Reverend Walter LaFleur, who has the day off. This morning's service is with Reverend Kurt Ballin, who I learned in our many conversations. He was the minister here. He's the minister emeritus now and was at UUCR for 12 years. And a reminder also, we have to do this every week to silence your cell phones. Okay. And our words of welcome, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you're filled with sadness, overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself, or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here. And our covenant at UUCR, we commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world.
Go ahead and start the video. Sorry. Out of the stars in their flight, out of the dust of eternity, here have we come. Stardust and sunlight mingling through time and through space. Creation just stopped. If you wanted chaos, here you go, exactly. That's one wonderful thing about this kind of service is that nothing is wrong. Out of the stars we have come, up from time. Out of the stars have we come. Time out of time before time, in the vastness of space, Earth spun to orbit the sun. I think it's bandwidth is the issue, so. Earth with the thunder of mountains newborn, the boiling of seas. That was, what's that sound from Strange Encounters of a Third Kind? Yeah, I think that was it. Anyway, Earth warmed by sun, lit by sunlight, this is our home. Out of the stars have we come, mystery hidden in mystery back through all time, mystery rising from rocks in the storm and the sea. Out of the stars rising from rocks and the sea, kindled by sunlight on earth, arose life. Ponder this thing in your heart. Ponder with awe. Out of the sea to the land, out of the shallows came ferns. Out of the sea to the land, up from darkness to light, rising to walk and to fly. Out of the sea trembled life. Ponder this thing in your heart. Life up from the sea, eyes to behold, throats to sing, mates to love. Life from the sea, warmed by sun, washed by rain. Life from within, giving birth, rose to love. This is the wonder of time. This is the marvel of space. Out of the stars swung the earth. Life upon earth rose to love. This is the marvel of life, rising to see and to know. Out of your heart cry wonder, sing that we live. Well, we can let that play in the background without the sound, and we'll continue as we do our chalice lighting, please. And then the response is listed in your order of service. I think we are limiting our public responses today because of COVID. So may the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life. And our opening song music here, We Laugh, We Cry, will be shown as a video compilation of singers from our denomination.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. Yes, we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. We seek an honest answer to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and healthy peace of mind. And then we come together here to talk of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. Yes, we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive. And we believe that learning is an answer. Yes, we believe in life and in the strength of love. Yes, we have found a need to together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is our answer.
Hello, everybody. If you weren't awake, you are now. Good morning. I'm Jessie, Director of Lifespan Faith Development here, and I know that you know, for the most part, that I like telling stories. The problem is sometimes I'm not very good at making up characters, and sometimes I lose the plot a little bit, and I just struggle to finish them. So this morning, you guys are going to tell me a story. So basically, when I leave a blank to be filled in, you need to fill in that blank. So let's practice real quick. Once upon a time, that was kind of boring. Once upon a time, deep, deep in the dark depths of Lollipop Forest, there lived a very small and a very quiet stink bug with his friend the tadpole. Their house was a little swampy. So the stink bug's name was Jeremy the stink bug. And, he was very small, very quiet, very unassuming, very smelly, this stink bug named Jeremy. And his tadpole friend, roommate, who was named Romeo, was the opposite. Romeo would make big, wet messes in the kitchen and in the bathroom, and even sometimes in the library. Sometimes in the library. He got kicked out several times, but he kept his library card. So one day, Jeremy decided, I need to talk to Romeo about this. This is getting out of hand. Every time he goes in the kitchen, he can't make his way to the fridge without getting soaking wet. So Jeremy the stink bug sits down, our friend Romeo the tadpole, and he says, Romeo, look, we have a problem. We have a problem. Every time I go into the kitchen, my feet get very slippery. And then I start to slide around like I'm ice skating in the middle of the kitchen. And it's just a big mess. It's a big mess. And Romeo started crying and said, Jeremy, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I tried everything. One day I put towels all on my little tadpole tail, and it didn't work. They just slipped right off. The next day, I tried talcum powder, and that just made a big pasty mess that was really good for like making a paper mache patch on the wall, but that's about all it got us. So this stink bug, Jeremy, and this tadpole Romeo decided to go find a new pumpkin, because we all know that pumpkins are the universal home for all animals. So they went and found a new pumpkin, and it was stinky and beautiful, because you can be both. It was also very large. It was big. It was humongous. And they not only moved in, but they had room to build a partition down the middle so they could keep separated. They could keep themselves apart. And they also built a big pool. Yeah, a big pool, because Romeo needs a pool, doesn't he? And Jeremy got his very own room, which was a kitchen, that he could stink up all he wanted and nobody cared, because they were already in a big, stinky, beautiful pumpkin. So the moral of the story is, when you have a problem, you should get a big pumpkin. When you have a problem, go get a big pumpkin. Thank you for making some order out of that chaos.
It's stinky in there, but the pumpkin in there. Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you to some folks here for helping to instill some order in this attempted intentional chaos this morning. Certainly thanking Teresa and Betsy and James, as well as Jesse, of course. Susan, who's in the office, trying to prepare her for the fact that this was not going to be a typical order of service or whatever. And then Carrie, who was providing some music to share this morning, even she wasn't going to be here, and being able to do that remotely. And then Chris Yates this morning, who was the greeter and having to greet people. And if you are new here this morning, I hope you feel comfortable going with our flow this morning. But anyway, thanks to everybody for their input. I'm going to start out here with just some short readings. The first one is from a D.H. Lawrence poem called Phoenix. Are you willing to be sponged out, erased, canceled, made nothing? Are you willing to be made nothing, dipped into oblivion? Second reading comes from a woman named Jane Alexander, who's the former head of the Endowment for the Arts and board member of various environmental organizations. And she writes, "We are tearing holes in the fabric of life on Earth that supports our human lives." And this is a quote. I actually don't know the source of it. It's one that I've had for a while. When time began, all was chaos. That is, nothing was formed or in order. There was neither sea nor sand nor salty wave. There was neither earth nor sky nor green thing anywhere. And this next quote is from a young man named Manuel Bertuzzo. He was a very young Italian promising Olympic swimmer who was competing for a place in the Olympics. And he was hit in the back by a bullet on the outskirts of Rome on the 2nd of February, 2019. And the diagnosis was complete spinal cord injury. But Manuel manages to find the courage within himself and fight to reach an ambitious goal, inner peace. And he says, mere chaos, in my opinion, should be considered like a moment for stopping and thinking. Stop and try to reorder ideas, to put everything back in shape again. And then a quote here from, adapted from the commentary on the 5th mindfulness training as presented by Thich Nhat Hanh, Thai as he is often known, the Buddhist teacher. Aware of the suffering caused by mindful consumption, commit oneself to the best of one's ability to cultivate good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society, by practicing mindful consumption to cultivate peace, well-being, and joy in my body, in my consciousness, and in the collective body of society and the world community. I understand that such an approach to consumption is crucial for the self-transformation, for the transformation of society and of the world community. Back in 1970, I was dropping out of college. I was 20 years old. I had broken up with my girlfriend, or I should say she broke up with me, and like many people of my generation, I was very averse to the dominant cultural, meaning social and political norms and expectations that were defining what it meant to be an American and to be a man, to be a human being. The war in Vietnam was certainly a glaring reflection of that. But what was being presumed by society, and certainly by my parents, what was being presumed by society and certainly by my parents was that I would find my place in the established parameters of what it meant to be a successful and prosperous American. Instead of getting with the program, I was dropping out. So I did drop out of school, but I was heartbroken, confused, and lost. At the time, I had a friend, Jim, who was, I guess, in retrospect, a model for me to emulate in how to navigate this dropping out thing. I looked to him for guidance. He had dropped out some months earlier and hooked up with an older hippie, they're in their 40s, couple and their kids, living in the mountains outside of Denver. They were living simply in a shack and live macrobiotically, and I'll say more about that in a minute. But they were also into marijuana and even did some dealing. I too smoked a lot of pot in those days. So in my desperation and uncertainty as to what to do next, I went to visit Jim. Jim's family, the family he had joined, was not home, but another young man named Hal was there. Jim was a big guy in overalls and a plaid shirt with a full beard and head of hair. Hal was slight, no beard, short hair, and in a simple black t-shirt. It was late fall, so it was cold enough in the Denver foothills to have a fire in the wood stove. We sat around and had some beans and rice and some tea. We also smoked a joint or two, and I suddenly excused myself and went outside because I had a sudden wave of anxiety. When I got outside in the night, I had this overwhelming sense of being psychologically totally naked, being emotionally bare, very vulnerable. I truly felt like I was nothing. When Jim and Hal came outside, I began to speak with them, but I had this remarkable experience. When I turned my head to the side like this and wasn't looking at either Jim or Hal, I was very much in that place of extreme vulnerability and psychological nakedness, that nothingness. But when I turned to speak with Jim and Hal, I behaved as if everything was normal while chit-chatting about whatever. It was like having a bifurcated mind, being two real myselfs that weren't particularly in sync with each other, yet each as real and as legitimate as the other. I felt I was caught in a chaotic vortex sucking me down. What came out of that experience for me was no less than life-changing. Out of that chaotic moment, I could have panicked and had a mental breakdown and crisis. Instead, I became powerfully motivated to find a place of balance between my personal state of mind and the world in which I found myself. To use that chaotic upheaval to redefine for myself what it meant to be human. A very long story short, I took up the study, and I underscore the word study, of Zen macrobiotics, which starts with the understanding that what we consume matters, beginning with a properly balanced diet determined by the dynamics of yin and yang relative to the environment in which one lives. Zen macrobiotics maintains that diet is crucial to self-transformation and for the transformation of society, and that all relationships in life, not just the food we eat, are defined within this understanding of the dynamics of yin and yang. It gave me a context for living that was within my control to make sense of, not simply one of conformity and manipulation. And just an aside, the use of marijuana and other substances, to the extent my friend Jim used, was very much in the extreme of the guiding principles of Zen macrobiotics. And extremes are mostly avoided in this approach. I lived this way strictly for several years, but I eventually had to willingly make compromises, accommodations, and choices to carve out a place of belonging within the larger culture, including going back to college to finish my BA. But the impact of that awareness never left me. In fact, most profoundly, it made me aware of the ongoing bifurcation of my mind relative to the ever-increasing tension between my conscience and the dominant culture in which we live. Awareness of the ongoing struggle to find synchronicity between my ideals and the reality of the world in which I live. There's no doubt that realization, that awareness of the tension between my idealism and my need to find a niche within the realism of the dominant culture, came to lead me to go into the Unitarian Universalist ministry and to define the trajectory of my life. Which brings me to the here and now. I think no time of the year demonstrates the power of the dominant culture than Christmas time. Whatever your religious beliefs or personal principles, Christmas time creeps into our life. We might welcome some of it, being with family and friends in a celebratory and loving way, being decorative and even more generous than at other times of the year. But none of us are ignorant to the fact that being fundamental to the dominant culture, Christmas is really about commercialization, about production and consumption in a profit-driven way. It's about buying and spending. It's about sustaining a capitalist social and economic system. It's about feeding the dominant culture, which is sustained by material production and consumption to create monetary wealth and material accumulation. And of course, there are millions of people who are recipients of this wealth and material accumulation. Yet there are perhaps even more millions of people who are not such recipients and who are made even poorer in their quality of life. We want to think that Christmas time is the happiest time of the year, a time of joy, love, gratitude, etc. But we also need to know that Christmas time is a serious time of big-time exploitation, anxiety, depression, and manipulation. Our dominant culture is very selective as to who benefits from Christmas time. For many decades, my bifurcated mind has struggled with the tension of opposition between my ideals of the Christmas season and the reality of what the dominant culture imposes and expects of us. I single out Christmas time because that's obviously what we've passed through and still are really be existing in, but it is very much something I think that awakes us to the reality of this dominant culture. But it is only just a glaring and blinding reflection of what is manifested throughout our dominant culture. And nowhere is that more apparent than on television. TV is the most effective and pervasive tool of communication. In the US, it is where the dominant culture reaches most of the population. And the purpose of non-public TV is to identify the most effective means to capture people's money. No matter what the political, religious, social agenda might be, monetary profit is the shared motivator of those who control TV and media networks. So advertising is critical to the sustenance of media corporations. So it is important for each of us to note what is being advertised, for that is very, very telling. I recently, before Christmas, participated in some dominant cultural events, and my bifurcated mind was hard at work. Because I played soccer and football in high school, I still have a qualified interest in the sports. And because I was still recovering at the time from my shoulder surgery and limited to what I could do, I watched some of the World Cup and some football matches and some college football. Aside from the millions of dollars behind the production of these games, the corruption, and the environmental impact of the resources used to accommodate these games, the commercials, the advertising were for things like new cars and trucks, beer, Coke, fast food, investment corporations, the latest phone, insurance, credit cards, Shaq O'Neal pushing pizza, and my personal favorite, a new Gillette razor blade that defoliates while you shave. Wow, what a step for humankind. So with tens of millions of people watching soccer sporting events on TV every game, probably the biggest world event ever to be watched, what are the values, the priorities being taught to viewers? Was there anything about the existential environmental crisis humanity and the rest of the biosphere that finds us in? Was there anything about how you can help address issues of poverty, injustice, violence, war, pollution, or exploitation in our society so we can all live in a healthier community? Nope. What matters is buying what will help make you a more acceptable participant, a more acceptable consumer in the dominant corporations' goals of becoming monetarily wealthier. Climate change and socioeconomic injustices receive no benefit from these promotions for more products upon which the dominant culture can further gorge itself. And one more thing. Of the many existing smacks upside the head to bring our attention to the malignancy of our dominant culture, a huge smack is the gigantic proliferation of plastic waste in this world. The data is overwhelming. The world generates at least, and this is a conservative estimate, 400 million tons of plastic waste a year. When you think what a little piece of plastic weighs, what it takes to get to 400 million tons. The planet is drowning in plastic waste, seriously unhealthy excrement of the dominant culture. A seemingly mundane, but I think profoundly telling example of how plastic has been and continues to become the dominant culture's answer to its survival is to go into any supermarket and to go to the aisle with washing detergents. There was a time not too long ago when the majority of laundry detergents was in cardboard boxes. Now it is rare to find any detergents in anything other than plastic. The scene of the plastic conquest of our lives cuts across practically every store-bought product now. And recycling doesn't even make a blip in attempting to decrease the harming force of this tsunami of plastic. The petrochemical industry has, as the saying goes, got us by the short hairs. In 1991, the syndicated columnist Ellen Goodman, some of you actually remember her, referred to parenting as the real counterculture. As she put it, one of your main jobs as a parent is to counter the culture. What the media delivers to children by the masses, you are expected to rebut one at a time. It struck me then and it strikes me now. Why should a parent be fighting to raise a child while fighting the dominant culture, what the dominant culture wants to impose? Certainly a unified society, community, a healthy society, community must have important aspects of its culture that is deeply shared, i.e. a dominant culture, or the society could not exist for long. For the nature of a dominant culture is existentially critical for the existence and sustainability of the community. But the dominant culture needs to exist to serve the health of the society, the health of the community, the health of families, the health of children. So let the dominant culture have its World Cup and its American football Super Bowl. But in the name of creation, why not use that platform for also dealing with the existential crisis that life on earth is facing? The existential crisis that truly threatens the well-being, the welfare, the health of every human, of every life form on this planet. So my bifurcated mind accepts the primary importance of a dominant culture, but my bifurcated mind is also profoundly and disturbingly aware that the dominant culture we live in, the world community lives in, is actually bent on destroying that which is essential and fundamental to the healthy existence of the biosphere, and especially of humanity. As the quote I shared earlier goes, we are tearing holes in the fabric of life on earth that supports our human lives, that supports our biosphere. The dominant culture has tied us with change to be subservient to it. And just a side, I think it's listed in your order of service. There's a website to go to that's called All Hail the Planet. If it's not in there, check it out, All Hail the Planet, and check out their videos. I think they'll be very, very enlightening. Personally, I find inspiration and guidance in Thai and Thich Nhat Hanh's challenging 5 mindfulness trainings. In particular, the 5th training. He underscores that these 5 trainings are like the North Star. They are never fully achievable, but a powerful guide along our life journeys. Mindful consumption of what we eat, drink, see, smell, hear, touch, read, think, do is fundamental to the foundation of self-transformation. So I'm not trying to be a Scrooge or a Grinch when it comes to the holiday season that we've celebrated and are still in the midst of. In fact, all of you here this morning also have well-established bifurcated minds. For if you hold to be of value any of our Unitarian Universalist principles, including the 8th principle that's held by some communities about upholding the beloved community, you are confronting the world in which we live. So you can't help but have a bifurcated mind. Our UU principles challenge us to confront the dominant culture in which we live. So I am asking us to join our bifurcated minds together. My bifurcated mind is calling on your bifurcated mind to be trying to consciously find the opportunity to select out, to extract the community building and health affirming aspects embedded in this hardened, poisoned, intoxicated season that is so defined by the dominant culture, bent on exploiting others rather than truly fostering healthy communities. Like my existential crisis in 1970, my bifurcated mind crashing into the toxicity of the culture that controlled me, thereby creating a chaos for me out of which to intentionally determine what really matters. May our collective bifurcated minds foster our ideals of what matters. Our Unitarian and Universalist values of pluralism, independence, equity, generosity, justice, evolution, all in service to love. In order to be a powerful force for transformation against this dominant culture of exploitation that dictates our living and our dying, let us do our part in creating a chaos out of which the beloved community and a sustainable biosphere can ultimately emerge as the driving motivators of the new dominant culture, reducing the current dominant culture to nothing of value except that which serves the planetary beloved community. We must break the chains for future generations. For the direction of the dominant cultural road that we are on as a world community right now will not take us to the planetary beloved community. Thank you. In order to support the work and efforts of this beloved community, as we seek to strive and find our own place in serving the community that we are as a congregation, but also the community we live in and the world community of which we are inextricably a part. At this time, we will take up a donation of offering, and we will put it to good use in serving the welfare of this community and it's serving the larger community. Thank you.
Comes the sun, here comes the sun, I say it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, long, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, I say it's alright. garden, the smiles returning to their faces. Little garden, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, I say it's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. 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 Little darling, I feel that ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. It's alright. It's alright.
Sun, 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 here we go. One more thing,
I'm trying to stop it. It won't stop.
Susie, you stay right here. We'll just run up the hill. Up the hill.
It won't stop.
Stay right here. She doesn't see us, and then we just run up.
It stopped. Good morning. I'm Terry Smith, representing the Caring Committee. As you know, we chronicle the highs and lows, joys and concerns of our congregation through lifelines. If you have something you want to share, you can submit it through the church office or email Sally Garber, who's head of the Caring Committee, or you can write in the Lifelines Journal, which spends the week in the alcove next to the name tag board and is up here at the altar before and after the service. This being January the 1st, 2023, has a nice ring to it, don't you say? I'm happy to share one very joyful event that occurred in the last week. Myself and my husband, Louis Harvey Smith, marked our 48th wedding anniversary on Wednesday. Wow. And now we'll take time for those who want to share silently what is in their hearts. Come, we'll have a lighting of candles. Teresa will join me. And please line up on either side of the altar if you'd like to light a candle. Hearts know peace, and our lives be filled with joy.
Suffering is universal to all of us as human beings, and certainly we are aware of the different degrees of suffering that we have individually, but we are also aware of the deep suffering others in this world have to deal with, whether it's famine or natural disasters or war. These sufferings are not separate from us. They are part of who we are as a human family. We need to take those into our hearts and minds when we are aware of our caring and our ability to help foster some change in the lives of those that we can. So as we sit quietly in reflection and meditation, let us be profoundly aware of how suffering is something that is there present among all of us, but how each of us has an opportunity to relieve some suffering for others in some way, even if it's a little way, because that makes a huge difference in the lives of other individuals and communities. So let us sit for a moment in quiet reflection and prayer and meditation. May I who live be true unto my being, one in my thoughts, my words, and every deed. I was born free, an ever-changing river is what I am, and neighbor, so are you. We have the power through laughter, love, and tears to face all fears and live forever free. Amen.
First of all, I think we need to express our appreciation to Reverend Kirk for reminding us of our UU principles and a wonderful start to our new year. We have just a few announcements today. And actually, the NAACP, the Roanoke chapter, is having their Jubilee Day celebration that is directed by the NAACP youth. It will be at 12 noon at Mount Zion AME Church on Melrose Avenue. And Dr. Reverend Lee, who is the retired pastor at Loudon Avenue Christian Church, is going to be the speaker today, and we're going to be very honored to have him at the beginning of the new year too, to be one of our guest speakers. Also, in following up on the message of love, there will be a Martin Luther King breakfast, the annual breakfast that's provided by the Roanoke chapter of A&T State University. That's going to be on Monday, the 23rd. And also this Roanoke chapter of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference will have another honorary luncheon for Reverend Martin Luther King's spirit of the community of love. That's going to be on January 14th at the Roanoke Country Club. And I may need Jesse's help on this, but beginning this Wednesday, the Lifespan Faith Development newsletter will begin to be distributed again from the office of Lifespan Faith Development. If you'd like to subscribe to that email, then you can see Jesse after the service. And if there is any problem that people have recently started having of not getting our monthly or weekly newsletter updates, Jesse can help you with that. We've had some feedback that suddenly people are not getting that. So please let Jesse or Susan in the office know, because they do contain a lot of information about our congregation. And that is it.
With the natural cycles of the earth and the environment in which we live, that the winter solstice played a very powerful role, because it really marked, for many, they understood it as the recreation of the world, of the universe, with the return of the light. And with that came all kinds of celebrations that were chaotic, celebratory, people behaving in ways that were very unlike their normal behavior, but it was all about creating a state of chaos in which out of which would then emerge a new form of order, and not just in the world, but within the society itself, recommitting oneself to the order of one's society. So it was in that spirit that we had this service today. But I hope you'll leave today with a sense of understanding of your own search and your own need to break away from the chains of culture that holds you from becoming a healthier human being and a participant in a healthier world community, but that we are each a part of. So thank you for your patience and your participation this morning. We're going to listen to our choir through another video singing Spirit of Life. a favorite hymn and song of many Unitarian Universalists and others. So thank you, Betsy.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blowing in the wind, rising in the sea, moving the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots holding close, springs set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
In spirit and a commitment to the welfare of those around you and to the world in which we live. Thank you.